Cannon going forward?
I can do a lot. It was pretty cool to see. I think it did just as much for his teammates as it did for him. They were thrilled and, glad it worked out the way it did. Kind of call it, getting the monkey off his back or whatever you want to throw on it. But the bottom line is the kid's worked his butt off. So anything he gets, whether it's a blue pit or ball going over the fence the way it did, he deserves it. And, had some lady yelling at me for bringing in a pitcher there late, so you can criticize whatever strategy moves, but that was one that worked because, KT and Cannon were on that field till about 10:15 last night taking swings. So we had Cannon hit for KT, and KT was happy to hand the baton off and said a couple good words to him. And it's pretty neat how that little deal worked out right there. On top of, like you said, kind of getting that thing past him. He's a kid that try hard is never going to be an issue. If it is, it's going to be, maximum effort. And I think maybe it'll allow him to relax and play to finally answer your question.
It's awfully hard to be a player who's not in rotation as much as you want to be, but how did that at bat and that home run really kind of encompass like the teammate that he is, whether he's in rotation or not?
Yeah, no, he's been an excellent teammate, and you find yourself at times, we talk with the team, we're past the point in the season where we can hand out charity. And no one loves a teammate factor as much as me. And being a guy who was at the bottom of the depth chart for Coach Jameson, who's in the other dugout, and he was always so good to me. You want to be good to the kids, and you want to reward them with repetitions. But we're kind of past that point. We have to plan for bigger things and be ambitious about being the best version of our team we can be on the field. And he's fully capable of doing that. And like I said, he's earned anything he gets. But the one thing he showed is we've got a lot of different weapons that we can utilize. And if everyone is just even coming close to what they're capable of, not trying to do too much where they drowned it out, and then I'd hesitate to even say someone not being focused, but just not being the best version of themselves. As long as we're kind of in that range where we're even close to being who we are, there's a lot of weapons and a lot of guys who can be the guy on any given day. Because you're not going to have all 9 guys go crazy in the lineup on one day. And fortunately for this team, I think we're always going to have a couple guys that can be a threat and help us produce.
What's been the key to AJ getting back on track?
I think it was just a moment in time where he realizes he's on a big stage and takes the time too much to look around and realize all that's going on, and a couple things, kind of downward spiral starts. They snowball for him is what I want to say. So I think it's more about those moments being kind of a curb that he had to get over or even go around. I think he's just back to being who he was, being his true self for us. He's been that way since he's shown up, and I'm not saying he hasn't evolved in a few different ways, because part of evolving is getting your teeth kicked in a little bit. I think the best guys have to do that. And then even if not, the best guys I've been around, if you truly attack the zone, the league will get you. And not just the league, college baseball. Marshawn Lynch, I think, is the great American philosopher. I think he said, you're going to get got, but I'm not going to get got, or whatever he said. He can say it better than I can. So he got a couple times, but he's done pretty well since then.
As a coach, is it harder to get a guy who doesn't play as hard as you want to play harder, or is it tougher to take a guy who does play really hard but maybe needs to channel it differently? Which is tougher to do?
I don't know which is more difficult. I'm having a difficult time trying to remember that exact quote. I'm going to go watch that on YouTube as soon as we get done. But I think what's better, I don't know to answer your question, what the accurate answer is for other coaches. What's better is to have that fire burning too bright and have a Drew Gilbert where he's literally out of control as a freshman in the fall, but there is no day where you question whether Drew Gilbert is going to swing with conviction, whether he's willing to run through that wall. And so what you end up doing is you make adjustments where, hey, in practice, you're not allowed to get near the wall anymore. That is a moment in time where you're like, man, I've coached a lot of guys that are skittish, around that. And so that's just a minor example of much rather have the fires burning too bright in a guy like Robin Villanueva is a maniac in here in the cages today. And we recognize that because he wants to do better and he wants to be out there and contribute. And Peebles is like that all the time. And you'd rather have to call a guy in like Andre Lipsius, who's in here and like, dude, that's too many swings. Like, I like working hard. So that is better. I don't know which is easier.
With AJ, is it for you
you, is it kind of tentative to move him into a different role since he's kind of found his footing here, or you feel confident that whatever will work with him?
I'm with him. I think he's such a valuable weapon. You know, Frank was making fun of me in the corner of the dugout today because we were throwing around different ideas, and you'd like the guy to be able to pitch every day for you. It's a challenging look for the hitters. It's a guy who our team loves playing behind. He makes me feel at ease when he's out there, even in moments where, you know, maybe a guy puts a big swing on one or he's got bases loaded. You know, the tough situation in Kentucky. So you wish you could use him in a variety of ways. But I think for now, the bottom line is we get him for a big chunk of pitches, which you call it 75 to 100. And so when we first kind of, against LSU, made a little bit of an adjustment, you know, you could call it a different role, but at the end of the day, it was the same thing when we started against Texas Tech. We're going to let A.J. Russell start, but we knew we wanted him to have a big chunk of that very important game to us. And so he's going to remain that way. It may be fluid where we kind of are able to do some different things with him.
What do you like most about this team's approach at the plate?
You know, Coach E does such a good job at getting guys to make adjustments based on the situation. And tonight puts on two bunt plays, and in both innings we end up hitting a home run. So you're kind of combining the small ball thing with, you know, being able to drive the ball. But as the season goes on, and in particular, we might as well talk about the most important day of the season, which is tomorrow. We're going to have to be able to score in a variety of ways. And so far, our guys have done a nice job of adding a pretty good Rolodex of different ways, whether battling with two strikes. You know, we've been able to take some walks. There's been some guys take some hit by pitches more recently, as painful as it might be, and again, getting a bunt down. So you got to get, I don't think creative's quite the word, but you got to get in a mode where you're almost trying to constantly solve that puzzle of how do I be the best version of myself, but not, you know, ignore the circumstances of who's on the mound, what team we're playing, what's going on with the, you know, the zone that day or the scoreboard, what the score is. So they do a nice job of navigating through that, and I think they got good leadership to do it.
Yeah, how has Coach E really transformed like the guys at the plate, maybe the last couple of seasons in particular?
I think, you know, taking that strength they get out of the weight room with Q and applying it the right way. Unfortunately, this is not a sport. You know, taking, you know, from the first pitch we had tonight was pretty cool. You know, we were already hyped up about next fall for the football team, but this is not a sport where you can enforce your will and hit somebody real hard or run into somebody as hard as you can. It's a different kind of intensity with baseball. So I think because he was that big, strong guy and had immense power and had to learn how to become a complete hitter at a high level in college and, of course, in pro ball, he can speak the language to those guys. Whereas I was never in those shoes, in those spots where the other team's scouting report revolves around me, or the pitcher's making this adjustment, or I need to sit on this pitch in this situation. So, again, I think he leans on his experience and is able to relay that to the guys in a way where they really trust him.
What do you see different about Sumaros tonight?
You know, not to discredit the guys he was facing tonight, but Walschmidt's a maniac, and you know, he starts that inning off the way he did, and after that he was fine, but he only faced a couple guys. So we made the decision, and you got to live and die with your decisions, and I think the guys are on board and they trust the coaches this year, which is awesome, and we trust them. So that means we feel like we can move different pieces around and hit Colby Backus tonight. So I didn't see anything that was poor last week. I think he was in a little better rhythm, you know, in the two home games and maybe that one, but overall, he's been great for us, and you kind of know you're going to get. You talk about that fire, he's going to be intense, and he's going to give you all he's got until you take him out of the game. And again, I think a credit to, you know, the leadoff hitter he faced against Kentucky more than anything.
Blake's hit streak came to an end tonight. Just now looking back on it, how impressive was that stretch for him?
You can call me a liar, but I asked, his takes weren't very good tonight at all. They were reminiscent of freshman year, and I asked one of the coaches, what's he doing? And they brought that up. I didn't know. I did know at Kentucky, he smoked the ball to right field, and someone said he had kept it alive, but I just didn't. And maybe not reading into that stuff. And then, of course, the crowd started cheering. So he has the record?
Correct.
Okay, so we're good. Yeah, we're good. He's going to Blake Burke is going to be just fine. And maybe it's good he's got that behind him. Obviously, You can't. There's no infinity for any of those streaks, and I can make a bad underwear joke with streaks, but we're not. I don't think we're trying to accomplish every individual achievement we can with our guys, and I'm playing off what they talk about in the locker room and out on the field is they want to win. So in a situation where it's different, obviously he struggled a little bit tonight because he looked like he was pressing. But if you do have a hit streak going on, and we ask you to bunt like we did Cal, and you also get hit by a pitch like Reese Chapman did, and you also hit a ball like Simo did to the second baseman, where it was an absolute missile, and those are your only 3 at-bats, how's that not a good night at the plate, So I'll take Blake Burke 0 for 4, 5 for 5 any day of the week, and he's kind of already established his status as a Vol. He's right up there with anyone you can, he's his own guy, but, JP, Todd, any of them, he's a Vol legend.